Good day, everyone. I am Josephine Besas, and I am going to discuss the following topics. First, the Educational Act of 1940, and second, the Quezon'S Code of Citizenship and Ethics. And for today's discussion, here are the objectives. At the end of the discussion, the listeners will be able to first, demonstrate understanding of the content of Educational Act of 1940. Second, explain the importance of Quezon's Code of Citizenship and Ethics to education. And third, appreciate the relevance of the Educational Act of 1940 and Quezon's Code of Citizenship and Ethics to the education system of the Philippines. First, I will discuss the Educational Act of 1940. What is Educational Act of 1940 all about? Educational Act of 1940 was approved on August 7, 1940 by the Philippine Assembly. It is also known as Commonwealth Act No. 586. The Education Act laid to the foundations for the present 6-year elementary course and made provisions for its support. It is stated in Section 2 of this Act that in order to meet the increasing demand for public elementary instruction and at the same time comply with the constitutional mandate on public education, a complete revision of the public elementary school system is imperative. Such a revision shall have the following objectives. A. To simplify, shorten, and render more practical and economical both the primary and intermediate courses of instruction so as to place the same within the reach of the largest possible number of school children. B. To afford every child of school age adequate facilities to commence and complete at least the primary course of instruction. C. To give every child completing the primary course an adequate working knowledge of reading and writing, the fundamentals of arithmetic, geography, Philippine history and government, and character and civic training. And D. To ensure that all children attending the elementary schools shall remain literate and become useful, upright, and patriotic citizens. The Section 3 of this Act states that the Department of Public Instruction shall forthwith make a revision of the elementary school curriculum so as to effectuate the objectives set forth in Section 2 of this Act, and likewise so as to adjust the academic school year that the school vacations would coincide as much as possible with the working season in the Philippines. It is stated in Section 4 that with the approval of the President of the Philippines, the required age for admission to public elementary schools may be raised to not more than 9 years, and the length of time required for the completion of the elementary instruction comprising both the primary and intermediate courses reduced to not less than 5 years. It is stated in Section 5 that no child shall be admitted into the public elementary schools except on condition that he shall remain in school until he shall have completed at least the primary course. Compulsory attendance, as herein required, may be waived in any one of the following. First, if the home of the child to the nearest school exceeds 3 kilometers and the said school is not conveniently accessible to the child, considering the means of transportation available. Second, where such is mentally defective or is physically unable to enter the said school, of which fact a certificate of a duly licensed physician should be sufficient evidence. Third, where on account of the economic condition of his parents, the child cannot afford to continue in school. And fourth, when the child transfers to a private school. The parents or guardians or those having control of children who are required to attend school without justification as prescribed in this section shall be liable to a fine of not less than 20 nor more than 50 pesos. The Section 6 of this Act states that to accommodate all children qualified to attend elementary schools as herein provided, the Secretary of Public Instruction may, with the approval of the President, authorize the holdings of 2 or more complete single sessions a day or adopt other measures calculated to take care of the largest number of school children. In Section 7, it states that, commencing with the school year 1940 to 1941, public elementary education, comprising the primary and intermediate courses, shall be supported by the national government. Sites for schoolhouses for primary and for intermediate classes shall be acquired by the municipalities, municipal districts, or chartered cities, as the case may be, through purchase or conditional or absolute donation, provided that the Department of Education may, with the approval of the President of the Philippines, waive any requirement for the acquisition of school sites of standard size whenever the same are not available. The Section 9 states that no tuition fees for intermediate instruction by municipalities and municipal districts shall be collected. The next topic I will discuss is all about the Quezon'S Code of Citizenship and Ethics. On August 19, 1939, a Code of Citizenship and Ethics was promulgated by President Quezon through Executive Order No. 217. We are engaged in a gigantic task of nation building in the midst of a troubled and bewildered world. So that we may succeed in this difficult task, we must forge our people into a united, patriotic, God-fearing, and contented citizenry. A people influenced by a single devotion to our native land, a people inspired by a single will, the will to make our country great, and a people animated by a single hope, the hope that the Philippines may take her rightful place in the family of nations. For this, we need all the unselfish love, all the unflinching courage, all the reserved wisdom, all the clear vision, and all the patient devotion of which we are capable. A man of good moral character makes the best citizen. He is pure in thought, moderate in action, upright in deed, just in judgment, and noble in purpose. To form a man of true character, all the infinite elements that make up the man, his intelligence, his beliefs, his feelings, his emotions, his likes, his desires, and even his fears, his hatreds, and his prejudices, all must be controlled, adjusted, integrated, and developed into harmonious and well-balanced personality. A code of ethics designed to formulate a way of life for a free people must perforce be didactic rather than legislative. It must be based on an appeal to reason and the conscience and not on any threat of punishment. For the sense of right and the force of tradition often far outweigh the most exacting legal sanctions. It is also evident that such a code must draw on the history and culture of the people for whose benefit it is promulgated. This code of ethics is not to foster exaggerated nationalism or to glorify narrow and blind patriotism. Its object is higher, purer, and nobler. It is to strengthen the moral fiber of our youth, to keep alive in the hearts of our citizens the value of ethical principles, and to proclaim the truth that moral discipline is the only sure road to national greatness. And here are the Code of Citizenship and Ethics. First, have faith in divine providence that guides the destinies of men and nations. Or, magtiwala ka sa puong may kapal na gumagabay sa kapalaran ng mga tao at mga bansa. Of supreme importance to the life of nations and peoples in the faith of divine providence, who created and upholds the universe, whose power directs the course of the world, and whose wisdom guides the destinies of men and nations. In his enumeration of the duties of the sons of the people, Bonifacio ordained, first, love God with all thy heart. Second, Always bear in mind that true love of God is love of thy country, and that this love is also the true love for thy fellow men. Second, love your country. Love your country, for it is the home of your people, the seat of your affections, and the source of your happiness and well-being. Its defense is your primary duty. Be ready at all times to sacrifice and die for it if necessary. In Filipino translation, mahalin mo ang iyong bayan sapagkat ito ang iyong tahanan, pinagmumula ng iyong pagmamahal at bukal ng iyong kaligayahan at pagiging tao. Ang pagtatanggol sa bayan, ang pangunahin mong tungkulin. Maging handa sa lahat ng oras na magpakasakit at ialay ang buhay kung kinakailangan. Love of country is demonstrated not by words but by deeds. It is not an occasional virtue to be exhibited now and then, but it is a flame that should constantly be kept aglow in our hearts. It is unflinching determination to serve and defend one's country at all times, at all costs. Third, respect the Constitution. Respect the Constitution, which is the expression of your sovereign will. The government is your government. It has been established for your safety and welfare. Obey the laws and see that they are observed by all, and that public officials comply with their duties. In Filipino translation, igalang mo ang saligang batas na nagpapahayag ng makapangyarihang kalooban. Itinatag ang saligang batas para sa iyong kaligtasan at sariling kapakanan. Sundin ang mga batas at tiyaking sinusunod ito ng lahat ng mamamayan at tumutupad sa kanilang tungkulin ang mga pinuno ng bayan. The Constitution is the expression of the sovereignty of the people. Its primordial aim is the welfare of all. The welfare of the people, in the fiery language of Andres Bonifacio, is the sole purpose of all the governments on earth. The people is all, blood and life, wealth and strength, all is the people. Reverence for law as the expression of the popular will is the starting point in a democracy. Fourth, pay your taxes. Pay your taxes willingly and promptly. Citizenship implies not only rights but also obligations. In Filipino translation, kusang magbayad ng mga buwis at maging maluwag sa kalooban ang maagap na pagbabayad nito. Alalahaning ang pagkamamamayan ay hindi lamang mga karapatan ang taglay kung hindi maging mga pananagutan din. Taxation is an essential power of government. Man is a social and political being. His nature demands that he live in the society of his fellow men. Living in society, however, entails rights and duties, among the most important of which is the duty of each and every citizen to pay his just share in the expenses of the government. We enjoy rights and privileges under the protection of the established government, and we must pay the price of that protection. Fifth, safeguard the purity of suffrage. Safeguard the purity of suffrage and abide by the decisions of the majority. In Filipino translation, panatilihing malinis ang halalan at sumunod sa pasya ng nakararami. Suffrage is one of the most important political rights appertaining to citizenship. If exercised with purity and noble purpose, it is the security of popular government. On the other hand, if perverted or basely surrendered by those in whose hands the law has entrusted its safeguard and protection, it serves instead to undermine the entire edifice of democratic institutions. Suffrage is a public and social duty which should not be neglected. Sixth, love and respect your parents. Love and respect your parents. It is your duty to serve them gratefully and well. In Filipino translation, mahalin at igalang ang iyong mga magulang. Paglingkuran mo silang mabuti at pasalamatan. Nobody is more faithful and devoted to us, more sensitive of our needs, more generous to our failings than our parents. Like a celestial message, Filial love speaks more eloquently than the tongue of man can speak, more eloquently than the pen of man can write. We can do no less, considering the sacrifices that our parents have made in our behalf. Many are the ways in which we could serve them and show our gratitude. By respecting our elders and by loving and helping our brothers and sisters, we reflect honor and credit to our parents. There are 1,001 little things which we could do to gladden the hearts of our parents and brighten the remaining years of their old age. 7th, value your honor. Value your honor as you value your life. Poverty with honor is preferable to wealth with dishonor. Or in Filipino translation, pahalagahan mo ang iyong karangalan. Gaya ng pagpapahalaga mo sa iyong buhay, ang karalitaang may dangal ay higit na mahalaga kaysa yamang walang karangalan. Honor is what prompts a man to strive for all that is noble, true and lofty in word and in deed. It inspires a man to be pure in thought, faithful to his duties, magnanimous to those who offend him, and generous to his friends. It makes a man courteous, loyal, and true. It never falters when duty calls. 8. Be truthful and honest in thought and action. Be just and charitable, courteous but dignified in your dealings with your fellow men. In Filipino translation, maging matapat sa pag-iisip at sa gawa. Maging makatarungan at makapagkawang gawa, ngunit marangal sa pakikitungo sa kapwa. Character is life dominated by principles. Truthfulness, honesty, charity, justice, and courtesy are the qualities that round up a real man and woman. These are the virtues that give force and worth to the race. Be truthful. We should not only tell the truth, but we should also welcome it. Only by knowing the truth are we able to correct our defects and shortcomings. 9th, lead a clean and frugal life. Do not indulge in frivolity or pretense. Be simple in your dress and modest in your behavior. In Filipino translation, mamuhay ng malinis at walang pag-aaksaya. Huwag maging maluho at mapagkunwari, maging simple sa pananamit at kumilos ng maayos. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Life is more than a gift. It is a trust which we must not abuse. We owe it to our Creator to conserve life, and that we can do only by observing clean habits, both of mind and body. Cleanliness is closely associated with frugality. Frugality means the simple life, both physically and morally. In its material aspect, it means bodily health and conservation of wealth and energy. From the spiritual standpoint, it means modesty of conduct, cleanliness of thought and speech, refinement of taste and behavior. 10th, live up to the noble traditions of our people. Venerate the memory of our heroes. Their lives point the way to duty and honor. In Filipino translation, mamuhay ng gaya ng inaasahan sa iyo ng marangal na tradisyon ng ating lahi. Igalang ang alaala ng ating mga bayani, ang kanilang buhay ay halimbawa ng daan tungo sa tungkulin at karangalan. A nation will not long endure if it is wrought in the midst of foreign and exotic ideals. Just as a tree will not grow up straight, strong, and luxuriant unless it is native to the soil and air, so a nation will not assume girth and strength unless its roots are planted deep into its own past and its soul is nourished by its own tradition. This does not mean that we should reject everything that is not Filipino, but it does mean that we should discard that false concept that everything foreign must be good and, therefore, must be imitated. We must use discrimination and prudence in adopting foreign models. If we have to follow foreign patterns, we should blend them with our own custom, traditions, and ideals, purifying them first of whatever grossness or imperfection they may be afflicted with. 11th, be industrious. Be not afraid or ashamed to do manual labor. Productive toil is conducive to economic security and adds to the wealth of the nation. In Filipino translation, maging masipag. Huwag ikatakot o ikahiya ang pagbabanat ng buto. Ang pagiging masipag ay daan tungo sa isang matatag na kabuhayan at sa yaman ng bansa. Life is work. Man perfects himself by working. Man reinforces himself by industry. Great ends necessarily demand great labor. There is virtue in the spade and in the hoe. There is as much nobility in plowing the field as in writing on philosophy. Labor leads the mind of man to serious things. It sharpens the mind of man by study. It inspires manly vigor by exercise and discipline. And it leads to the intense cultivation of land, so essential to the life of an agricultural nation. By labor, by work, by industry, jungles are cleared, barren lands are made to yield, fair fields arise, and stately cities born. 12. Rely on your own efforts. For your progress and happiness, be not easily discouraged. Persevere in the pursuit of your legitimate ambitions. In Filipino translation, umasa sa iyong kakayahan sa pag-unlad at kaligayahan. Huwag agad mawawala ng pag-asa, magsikap upang makamit ang katuparan ng iyong mga layunin. Our life is what we make it. If we are to succeed, it is necessary that we possess self-reliance, courage, and perseverance, for out of these qualities, new strength is born which will enable us to overcome adversities and conquer difficulties. Even a bended tree finally succeeds in ascending the sky and resisting the winds by its own self-sufficiency. Therefore, trust yourself, be courageous, and persevere in your task. 13th, do your work cheerfully, thoroughly, and well. Work badly done is worse than work undone. Do not leave for tomorrow what you can do today. Or in Filipino translation, gampanang maluwag sa kalooban ang iyong mga tungkulin. Ang gawaing hindi maayos ay higit na masama sa gawaing hindi tinapos. Huwag ipagpabukas ang gawaing maaari mong gawin ngayon. A nation of energetic and busy people, a people working cheerfully and thoroughly, all shoulders to the wheel, with muscles swelling, with hearts pounding, a people finding in work the consummation of all their hopes and all their desires, a people who considers a duty well done as its own sufficient reward, as a nation destined under God to be great and strong. 14th, contribute to the welfare of your community. Contribute to the welfare of your community and promote social justice. You do not live for yourselves and your families alone. You are part of society to which you owe definite responsibilities. In Filipino translation, tumulong sa kagalingan ng iyong pamayanan at palaganapin ang katurungang panlipunan. Hindi ka nabubuhay na nag-iisa kapiling ang iyong mag-anak lamang. Bahagi ka ng isang lipunang pinagkakautangan ng pananagutan. The individual lives not for himself and not for his family alone. His life is a community life. He has, therefore, larger interests to serve. He should take interest in the affairs of his government and of the community in which he lives. Civic conscience is a feeling of responsibility, courage, and pride. Rizal said, "Man's object is not to satisfy the passions of another man. The object is to seek happiness for himself and his kind by following the road of progress and perfection." 15th, cultivate the habit of using goods made in the Philippines. Patronize the products and trades of your countrymen. Or in Filipino translation, ugaliin ang pagtangkilik sa sariling atin at sa mga kalakal na gawa rito sa atin. It is important that we develop our local industries with the aim in view of diminishing our imports, retaining our wealth within the confines of our country, and increasing the earning capacity of our people. Enterprising men and women have heeded this call to develop domestic production, and as a result, factories have sprung up in our towns, and even in the barrios we witness the expansion of the household industries. But unless we patronize their products, the efforts of these men and women are doomed to failure. We should cooperate in the building up of our national economy, and where we cannot actively produce, we should at least, as a matter of patriotic duty, buy locally made products in preference to imported goods. And lastly, use and develop our national resources and conserve them for posterity. They are the inalienable heritage of our people. Do not traffic with your citizenship. Or in Filipino translation, gamitin at linangin ang ating likas na yaman. At pangalagaan ito para sa susunod na salinlahi. Ang mga kayamanang ito ay minana pa natin sa ating mga ninuno. Huwag mong gawing kalakal ang iyong pagkamamamayan. Real freedom must go hand in hand with economic stability, if not economic prosperity. Our vast domain and natural resources constitute the inalienable heritage of our people. We cannot alienate them. We are at most usufructuaries thereof. They belong to the generation yet unborn. It is therefore our duty to conserve and develop them. Here are some questions. Number 1. Why is it important to understand the legal basis of education? Number 2. Why do we need to understand the code of citizenship and ethics? Number 3. Why ethics is important in educational assessment and how does it challenge relevant quality learning? Number 4. How do you incorporate ethics and values in the classroom? And state how it affects sociology.